Hi there, I'm Fred Trost, and if you're a duck hunter, you're probably getting your duck gun out ready for opening day. It's a good thing you joined us.
That's right. I'm Kathy Fleck, and this edition of Michigan Weekend is a special just for duck hunters. We'll show you how to cook wild duck with a recipe that's simple but oh so delicious. And if you haven't enjoyed wild duck before, you're really going to like it this way.
Ken Peterson, who's been Michigan's duck calling champion 5 times, will give us some lessons in calling and hunting Michigan ducks. This is proven advice from a real expert. We'll also have a special opening day forecast for duck season in the Lower Peninsula. And for fishermen, we have an unusual fish story.
Michigan Weekend is brought to you in part by Meyer 50 Acres, your one-stop shopping store.
And by Michigan Out of Doors, Michigan's leading outdoor magazine. Well, we're just talking here with Ken Peterson about duck hunting. Of course, most of you duck hunters in the state who have been duck hunting for a while recognize the name Ken Peterson. Besides being the outdoor editor of the Flint Journal, just doing a terrific job for the people in our Channel 12 viewing area, Ken is an extraordinary duck caller. What, 4 or 5 times state champ?
5 times.
5 times the state champ at duck calling, and of course duck calling is a real art. In fact, duck hunting, wouldn't you say, is a real art?
I would think so, done right, yes.
It's something that can be difficult, but then again, not too much for the common man. I'm picking up a lot of tips from Ken, and I was out in the marsh with Ken a while back. We were doing a film. Let's go to the film now, Ken, and so you can tell us a little bit about some tips you have for duck hunters. Now, what about the cold, rainy, windy days that everybody says, this is good duck weather? Is that true?
Well, they're right. If you leave the rain out, Fred, the general public thinks that a rainy day is a duck day, and that's not really true because ducks don't like to fly in the rain. But give me the cold, cloudy, cool day with some wind, and then you've got a great duck day.
Why the wind?
The ducks seem to like to fly or will fly in the wind. It seems to give them some urge to fly, and I don't know why, but we always associate wind with ducks flying.
Southern Michigan has a lot of good duck territory. What would you say is the best habitat for puddle ducks?
Well, when you're after puddle ducks, and of course, you know that's my favorite, you're hunting in the marsh. In this particular instance, I'm hunting in the state-managed game area, which simulates the marsh. This happens to be a cropland, and if you associate shallow water with cropland, you have the ideal setup for dabbler ducks.
It can just be a flooding, can it? It doesn't have to be a permanent marsh.
Doesn't have to be permanent, although unless there's some permanent water nearby, you have nothing to hold the ducks during the summertime.
Now, what do the ducks, the puddle ducks in Michigan, feed on?
Puddle ducks, we call them puddle ducks because they're bottom feeders, and they'll feed on a variety of plants and some animal life, insects, snails. They'll feed on a variety of seeds, like wild millet.
So you set your decoys out here, in this case, in very shallow water. Decoys, how important are they to duck hunting?
Well, decoys, to my feeling of decoys is that, especially now, we're talking about calling ducks or attracting ducks. Ducks like company, and when ducks are flying around, perhaps looking for a place to rest or a place to feed, they could be looking for other ducks. But if you're calling ducks, then the ducks that are flying by are looking for the duck that they think is calling. So your decoys represent the duck that is calling, and of course they take their eyes off the hunter. He doesn't want the hunter to look at him. He wants him to look at a decoy.
Okay, now we have our decoys out. Why don't you get out your call right now, Ken, and give us a demonstration of some of the calls you do to attract these ducks.
Well, when you see ducks in the air flying by, and not all ducks that fly by are what we call decoying ducks. If they're too high, if they're just flying, obviously from one point to another you don't call. But if they're low and you can see them craning their necks about, then they're looking for a place to land. So you give them what we call a hailing call. It's a very short call. Now, when they're flying, there's all kinds of things that attract ducks, so in case they don't hear you, you just add a few sequences to that hailing call. And generally, this is what I would do if I saw some ducks. And And you can tell if they hear you, Fred, because their wings will wobble, they'll turn, they'll circle, and then you change your call to seduce them a little bit more, get them to land in your decoys.
And then you go to what, the feed chuckle?
Feed chuckle is, or feed call is the one we use when they're close so that we don't scare them. That kind of soothes them and lets them know, well, the ducks down here are real ducks. Another thing you do when they're close is you'd use a softer hail call, something like this. It's not loud. If it's too loud, they'll see you. They know they have excellent ears and great eyes, and they'll see you, and they as well as hear you.
Well, we can see this flock here sort of setting its wings.
Right.
As they fly about, they hear the call, they look at the
They
decoys.
heard the call. You'll notice that a lot of these ducks will not come in, not because of the call. One thing you have to learn in calling ducks, you can't call ducks where they don't want to land. So you've got to be smart in choosing a spot for your decoys.
Now, when the ducks set their wings like that
When
and
they
come
set
down,
their wings, you know that means they've responded to your call and they're looking for a place to land.
and that's, boy, that's a welcome sight out in the marsh. I know when you see them finally set their wings, you
Oh,
say,
beautiful.
aha.
You don't care whether you shoot or not. When they respond to the call, you've done your job.
Okay, now we have a flight of geese come in and set down a little ways from the blind. Will that help or hurt the effort?
I don't know that it'll help. Sometimes it might hinder because they'll act as magnum decoys off to one side and they might attract the ducks. If you're calling, the ducks will see those huge geese and they might fly over the geese instead of over your little decoys.
Now, would you recommend letting a few ducks settle in your decoys?
I don't mind letting ducks settle because I just like to see them come in. I mean, that's part of the joy of calling. If you can get a duck to flop right into your decoys, then who cares whether you shoot or not? And of course, if you get a hen mallard, and this is, incidentally, the call imitates the hen mallard. That's about the noisiest duck of the whole duck world. So if you get a hen mallard to land in your decoys, then it's a natural caller.
Okay, right there you got a teal. Now, as you said, it's something that a lot of people don't maybe understand who don't hunt, that there's so much to a sport like duck hunting that is much more than just shooting ducks.
That's true.
The joys of calling, of bringing the ducks in, and also of a wild duck dinner.
Nothing beats your dinner, of course.
Oh, that's for sure. I really believe that hunters should eat what they shoot. Same
Right.
thing with fishing. I just don't hunt game or fish for fish that I don't take home and
That's
eat.
true. Well, the beauty of hunting and fishing is that you don't need it to survive. You don't need to kill a wild game. You don't need to catch a wild fish to survive. And that's the whole basis of the hunting ethic. The fact that you do not need it allows you then to let a duck fly by, to enjoy the wild duck. It allows you to concentrate, say, on ducks that are plentiful and let the scarce duck fly by. So if you shoot one, your thinking is for your table as much as anything. You're looking forward to a nice roast duck dinner.
That's for sure. Let's just pause just a minute here to look at your calls. These are wooden calls. Is this the
Yes.
type you recommend that people buy?
Well, this here happens to be locally made. It's made in Flint by Arthur Beecham. It's a walnut call, and it has, this is laminated. It happens to have some birch in it. But the walnut call with the walnut insert is the preferred call for the duck hunter who wants to imitate the true mallard sounds. As I said, we're trying to imitate a mallard. And this particular call here is known as a hard blowing call. You'll find hard blowing calls in the South, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana. And the reason you have a hard blowing call is that is the call that most nearly imitates the hen mallard.
Well, that sounds good. Good advice to duck hunters. You can't get better advice than have Ken Peterson talk about duck calling. And thanks for coming down, Ken. We're going to have
You're
you
welcome.
on again, talk about all sorts of shooting sports. Deer hunting, I happen to know you're an
My
ASAT.
favorite sport.
Well, we'll get talking about that another time. And we're going to be right back with a wild duck dinner, a recipe that's so simple and you'll just really love for wild duck. And we'll be back with that in just 1 minute.
There are over 80 nautical charts of various parts of the Great Lakes, over 700 topographical maps of different areas of Michigan, some 2,500 maps of inland lakes. Details on what maps are available and how to order them are in the new map index published by the Michigan United Conservation Clubs. And this 32-page index can be yours absolutely free. Just send a self-addressed envelope along with 45 cents for postage and handling. In other words, drop in 3 first-class stamps and send to MUCC Maps, Lansing 48909. Don't get lost this season. Send for your map index today.
Kathy, you know, a lot of jokes have been made in duck blinds over the years about the preparation and cooking of decoys, you know, when you don't get any wild ducks. But we don't have a recipe like that. We have a serious one, a great recipe for ducks. So let's go to our mobile headquarters, our pickup camper, where we're filming all of our Michigan Weekend recipes from now on. One reason that we do this, besides the fact that it's handy to cook outdoors, but I think it illustrates that even under circumstances that might not be quite as ideal as a fine restaurant, you can still cook mighty fine meals, fish and game recipes. And it really isn't that hard to do. What we're doing here is we're going to fix a recipe that is a favorite of nationally known outdoor writer Ted Trueblood. It's for stuffed duck.
How do you know it's a favorite?
Well, because he wrote in several articles that I've read of his, and the most recent one, he said that this is the only way to prepare wild duck.
Okay.
He says it's absolutely stupendous, so I just had to try it out. What it involves is stuffing a duck with several vegetables. There's celery, which you'll only need 1 or 2 stalks, depending on how many ducks you have. We'll have onions, green pepper, with a few spices. That's all there is to it. So you just prepare, a medium onion, a medium-sized green pepper, get them ready, and you dice them first of all. I don't suppose you want to watch me go through the whole process of dicing these vegetables?
No.
Well, I thought that you might not want to, so I stepped on the gas and speeded up quite a bit. I'm able to accomplish this, well, with my cooking experience over the years, I'm able to accomplish the dicing of vegetables quite quickly.
Fred, do you think with a little practice I could get that good fast?
Well, sure, that's all it takes. That's what I try to tell people here on Michigan Weekend, that you practice at cooking. It doesn't really take all as much as many people think. So here we have diced up an onion, green pepper, and a couple stalks of celery. Now we get the spices out. All we're talking about here is salt, pepper, and some sage. And Ted Trueblood, in his recipe, didn't really offer any suggestions as to quantities. Just do it to your own taste. So sprinkle a little of each, salt, pepper, and sage, until it looks about right. And that sage really adds a nice flavor.
Now, the thing I've never cared about in wild duck is that it tastes a little dry. How
Okay.
is this?
Okay, right here we have the duck. We have a teal and a mallard to illustrate 2 different sizes. The teal is a much smaller one, the mallard is larger. People who skin game birds remove all of the fat around them, and the fat is what really makes them moist and tender. Well, there's a couple things with this recipe that keeps them moist. But here we've had the giblets in there. Gizzard, heart. I chopped that up and put it in the stuffing. Adds a little extra flavor. But now back to the moistness of game birds. If you pluck ducks, like we did here, leaving all the skin and all the fat on them, you don't have to worry about draping them with bacon, which many people do. They skin out their game birds and put bacon all over them, but that...
And then all the game birds taste like bacon.
Yeah, they taste like bacon. Well, so here's what we do. That's number 1. Pluck them rather than skinning. The second thing is we turn the oven, as you noticed, up to 550, as hot as it will go. We're going to pop the mallard in the oven first, because the mallard will take about 20 minutes. The teal will take about 12. So we set the timer for 8 minutes. When 8 minutes is up, we put the teal in there, and we'll set the timer again for 12 minutes. That is cooking very quickly, but it cooks them through and through, leaves them moist and tender and just excellent.
You mean you don't cook them anymore at all?
That's all. 12 minutes for a teal, 20 minutes. The amazing thing about this recipe is the stuffing that was inside When you take that out, it is crunchy. Ted Trueblood says it's like salad. And I couldn't quite believe it, but I split the duck. You can have a half a mallard per person or a whole teal per person. Look at how tender it is and juicy.
Looks delicious.
I guarantee if you try wild duck, according to this recipe, you're going to love it. Really, it is. I just can't describe how good it is.
I can tell by your face, you do.
Oh, it is. I've had duck fixed other ways with wine and wrapped in bacon and so on, and they're good that way. I'm not knocking those recipes, but I'm saying for the true wild duck flavor, you have that stuffing with that duck. You will really enjoy it. I certainly did, and I cooked it all right there in the camper. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to know, if they didn't catch those ingredients, how to get that recipe.
Well, you can get it at any Meyer Thrifty Acres sporting goods department.
That's right. That's in a little booklet, Michigan Weekend Fall Recipes. Also, Michigan Out of Doors magazine, in the November issue this month, has the recipes that we'll have on the show this month. So you'll want to be a subscriber to that, and to help you new subscribers afford it a little more, here's a half-price offer that you won't want to miss. Nautical maps for sailors and powerboaters, lake maps especially for fishermen, topographical maps for backpackers and hikers, county maps for anyone who travels, a trout stream directory for anglers, and the wildlife chef for anyone who enjoys good food. Where do you get these publications? The details are in Michigan Out of Doors each month. For new subscribers, a special half price off this month, only $3.75 for 12 issues. Send your check to Michigan Out of Doors, Lansing 48909. This offer expires October 31st, so subscribe today. It's hard to believe that a big fish story with a trophy fish the size of this one we're going to talk about can be a hard luck story. But listen to this. Here's what happened. Ken Clark from Charlotte sent in his master angler entry form for a 33-pound, 11-ounce Chinook salmon, which he caught in the Manistee River, trolling. Now, here we have Ken with us. We don't have the fish, Ken. You were entered in 2 derbies.
Right.
Right? The American Salmon Derby with a top prize of $10,000?
Yeah, 10,000.
Okay, and the Michigan Salmon Derby at Manistee with a trip to Hawaii. Okay, as you were coming into port with your fish, you had a choice. You were entered in both contests. Which contest were you going to have your fish weighed in first?
Well, we had a guy come over the night before and explain to us that if you get a fish that's fairly good size, says take it to the surplus, and for $1 you get a free lure. Says you can't lose. For lure costs more than $1, so that's, you know, we caught it on a miller's lure, and we thought, well, hey, we can pick up another one here. We'll just slide over there.
So you went to Bob Allen's surplus store, picked up your lure, weighed in your fish, and that made quite a hullabaloo there, didn't it?
Well, yeah, we were still back on the dock talking with some friends, and they drug it up there and weighed it, and my gosh, all hell broke loose.
The 33 pounds, 11 ounces. Okay, that ended up winning the Michigan Salmon Derby, which won in the trip to Hawaii. Now, in that half hour, the fish was hanging there, pictures taken, it was dripping on the floor, right?
Yeah.
You had to go over to Cook's, a different place to register your fish for the American Salmon Derby. How much did that fish weigh by the time you got it over to Cook's?
When we got to Cook's, it weighed 33.8.
Okay, it lost 3 ounces. 3 ounces of fish slime there on the Bob Allen's floor in Manistee, and that 3 ounces was worth $10,000.
Right.
Right, a fish 33 pounds, 9 ounces won the American Salmon Derby. Walked off with $10,000. How did that feel?
Well, when they told us the next day that somebody weighed one in 1 ounce larger, we thought, well, there'll be a bigger one yet. You know, it wasn't so bad yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we thought we'd probably be down about 5, maybe. Then when nobody else was getting any bigger, we started really starting to feel a little heartsick there.
What did you learn from this experience?
When we caught it, we put it in the back of the boat and just started heading in. We never put it back in the water once. And that whole time it took to go to both places. And I tell you, if I had to do over, there'd be a place where storage water in it to keep the fresh fish. And
Keep those body fluids in there so you
Yeah.
have the extra weight.
you wrap it in your coat, anything. Just
Well, there's advice from Ken Clark from Charlotte, who lost $10,000. He didn't really think it mattered, but boy, in that American Salmon Derby, he could have won 10 grand. Well, you got into the money anyway, didn't you?
Well, yeah, well, we're not out anything. Gosh, we
Well-
made our expenses back plus, so.
Okay, plus, a Master Angler patch from the DNR. Plus, you chose a Johnson 155 guide reel. You got that for Michigan Weekend. Now, there's a story for you. Keep your fish fresh. Weigh them as soon as you catch them. Thanks for stopping by, Ken.
Thank you.
Some good tips. Now, I wonder about these Master Angler fish we're going to talk about, if they were weighed right after they were caught. I bet you they weighed a little more than the weights that we're going to report right now. Well, here's Ralph Keck with a 21-pound, 12-ounce lake trout he caught from Glen Lake. He was trolling in that inland lake in Leelanau County with a flatfish. There's a northern pike taken by Stephen Soderstrom from Rapid River. He was fishing in Ogon's Bay, Delta County, casting with a Mep spinner. That's a 27-pound northern pike. What a beauty. And here's a nice walleye, one of many that have come out of Manistee Lake recently. This was caught trolling with a U-20 silver flatfish by Wayne Buckner of Manistee. It's 10 pounds, 11 ounces. A lot of nice Master Angler fish have been caught recently. Fishing has really been good, but hunting season is really on the minds of many sportsmen. Now's the time to get to Meyer Thrifty Acres and check out some of these good buys on hunting gear that's happening right now. Guns, gun cleaning kits, gun cases, everything for the hunter can be found in the sporting goods department at Meyer Thrifty Acres. And check out these prices. ProMark Trigger Touch shooting gloves, $1 off. This week only $4.44. With coupons from the One Stop Shopper, you can get 50 cents off any brown, fluorescent, or camouflage hunting hat in stock. Or if you're a duck hunter or steelhead fisherman, $3 off any chest waders in stock. Remington duck and pheasant loads for only $3.88 a box. Why pay more for sporting goods when you can get everything you need for hunting season at Meyer Thrifty Acres? Okay, duck hunters, here's a opening day forecast in a nutshell. Basically, you're going to find it all around the Great Lakes, all the potholes, the marsh areas, all around the Great Lakes and the inland areas are going to be good with local ducks, mallards, teal, although some of the blue wings have moved on through. A few cold nights would shove more of them down there. Now, basically, the good hunting throughout the first couple weeks is going to be in the managed areas, which are basically on the eastern side of the state. Now, managed areas are not without their problems. If you applied for and received a successful permit for Fish Point, disregard the reply that says you have an afternoon hunt, because they all say that. There was a printing error. So if you received a successful card back, go when you requested the hunt. Don't necessarily go in the afternoon unless you requested it. The DNR wants to get that information out because there was a goof in the printing.
It seemed to me, Fred, that if you're a hunter, you really should get outdoors this weekend.
It's a great place to be. We'll see you next week.
Michigan